الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد ولك الرضا ولك الحمد بعد الدين ولك الحمد بعد الرضا، لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. صل اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا نفس ما قدمت بغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have. وما بكم من نعمة فمن الله وما بكم من حسنة فمن الله ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله. And we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our needs. يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. And there is hardly anything we can do to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough for all that He has given us when it comes to نعمة الله لا تحصوها. We just have to do our best in expressing our gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being grateful, and our best in praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our needs. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, this religion came with the great goals to achieve. On top of these goals comes two key words. One is Islah, like Quran says on behalf of Shu'aib in a verse that summarizes the purpose of messages and messengers. In uridu illa al-islah. I only desire betterment, your betterment, or to make people better people and to make this world a better place. And in another verse we find also an ultimate goal of Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hadid says, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانَ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. That we have sent messengers and revelations with the book and the scale so that justice prevails. So we have Islah and Adl, making reform or making this world a better place and making people better people and for justice to prevail. These are the ultimate goals of Islam. And that's what we should always keep in mind, because we were assigned the job to make this happen. To try to be the best versions of ourselves, to help people around us be the better versions of themselves, to help and make and contribute to make this world a better place, and to make sure or to help and contributing so that justice prevail on earth. That's our job, and we have to understand it very well and do it to the best of our abilities. The approach of Islam to achieve this is unique and very effective. Islam does not focus on the state and the law, focus on the individuals, focus on the individual, to purify the individual, to give this individual a high purpose in life, to put this individual on a journey of self-development and self-purification, journey of tazkiyah, and then eventually, so that this individual become not only a good citizen, but also an active one, someone who contribute to make this world a better place and contribute to make justice prevail. Salih wa muslah. Someone who is not only a good person, but also someone who is active in advancing the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How Islam does this? Does it in many ways. On top of them, or the key, is to give the individual a purpose in life, a mission. So that you start living for something. You're living for what? You're living pursuing Ridwanullah. So you have an ultimate goal. And in doing so, or to achieve Ridwanullah, to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with you, then you have to work hard and push your limits and do your maximum so that to enforce or fulfill the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Infad muradillah. That's what Islam does. Commits the individuals to this purpose, and then that's it. This individual is on track to start working on himself all the time and to start maximizing their contribution to the greater good. The journey of tazkiyah and islah. Islam commits you to a mission and puts you on a track for a journey that takes all your life of tazkiyah and islah. Tazkiyah, self-development, making yourself try to be a better person, and also helping others be better people, and islah, which is contributing to the greater good. On both counts, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do the maximum. Ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih. You're always going to be working on this until you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when it comes to contributing to the greater good, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَاهِدُ بِاللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادٍ. The word jihad in Quran is always means to do your utmost in advancing the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you're doing something fi sabilillah, do the maximum you can and always try to push your limits. And Islam focus on the family and the community. Again, it is the bottom-up approach, not top-down. On the family and the community, pushing families to try to be a role model, like you as an individual. Your job is to develop yourself into a role model. Your next responsibility is to build and develop your family into a model family. And then for the Muslim community to be a model community. Why? Because that's the environment in which the individual is raised, is going to grow up. So Islam takes care of, focus on the individual, but also focus on the environment in which the individual is going to be, is going to grow up. And of course, these are the building, also the family and the community are the building blocks of the society. That will do what? This will create a synergetic cycle between all these elements. How? Individuals working themselves to be better individuals and to make the society a better society. A better society will bring better individuals. Same thing for the family. Interaction between individuals and family. A good individual will go and build a good family, and good family will raise a good individual. Family and the community, same, two-way relationship. Communities and societies, same. So Islam creates synergetic cycle between all these and keep uplifting all of them so that the moral standards become very high. The social norm. Why? Because everybody is pushing it up. Individuals, families, communities, everybody, society becomes healthy, and in a healthy society you're going to have healthy individuals and healthy communities. So each component will feed into the rest. This will reduce the role of the state and the law in Islam. They don't have a major role to play because again the focus is on the individuals. And you know, you can have the best law on earth. If you give it to a corrupt judge, what's the point? And if you have a decent judge, even if he is given a law that is not perfect, they're still going to be more fair and more just. So it comes down to the individual themselves. Why Islam reduces the role of the state? Because the majority of people will have a greater motivation to behave. It's not like because the police is watching you, then you're going to obey the law. No, you're going to obey the law because that's part of your religious duties of honoring the contracts. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقود. Honor your contracts and your obligations. And the Constitution is a contract, and the law is a contract. So you have a higher motivation. You don't need anybody to police you. Why? Because you have a higher motivation to do good and stronger ability to restrain yourself. And that's what the Quran does. If you keep studying the Quran all the time, it will increase your motivation to do good and will increase, strengthen your ability to restrain yourself. And Quran does it in a magic way. Makes you much more motivated to do good in different ways. Quran does this in different ways. And makes you also much more capable of restraining yourself from doing haram, even if nobody is watching, even if it is legal. Even if it is okay with people, you're not going to do it. Again, because you have a higher purpose and a higher motivation, and because Allah is watching. Why this approach is much more effective? We have at least 3 proofs that the Islamic approach is much more effective than relying on fixing things from above, which never worked and never will. One, the prophetic community itself. Amazing community that required only 1-page constitution. Constitution that the Rasul ﷺ wrote in the Medina was 1 page and maybe less. And we didn't hear that there is a lot of litigations and people all of the time are suing each other in that community. Minimum role of the state, war and the law, because people, they were policing themselves. People were restraining themselves and people were working for a higher purpose. So we didn't hear that there is a huge law enforcement at the time of Rasul ﷺ, or a lot of litigations and people again suing each other. Second evidence that this approach is the effective approach is what we see today. The most advanced and successful societies and countries and nations are those who invested in the individuals. Read about any success story, you will find that it started by investing on the individuals, in the individuals and the education system. That's how these societies prosper. And societies who are not investing in the individual are lagging behind. That's another evidence. The third is something that we have seen recently. The Arab Spring. In a few countries, it toppled the regime. Government gone. The regime is gone, not only the government. But nothing has changed. Why? Because people did not change. People did not change. And this change in people does not happen from above and does not happen by the law. So the emphasis in the Quran, that's the point I'm trying to get to. The emphasis in Islam and in the Quran is on the individual. Strengthening iman and taqwa and character and khuluq of the individual. Strengthening iman, your faith, purifying your heart, strengthening your taqwa, your God consciousness, and strengthening your character. 2, as I mentioned, it gives you strong incentive to do good and to give and to share from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Quran is full of verses that encourage you to share and to give and to help others. 3, strengthen your ability to restrain yourself so that you police yourself. At the heart of all of this, we find some key principle in Islam, or one of the pillars in our faith is birrul walidayn, kindness to parents, and the relationship in general, starting with the relationship with your cousins and relatives, and then expanding that to all people around you. We find this emphasized in a number of verses in the Quran. We're going to start, inshallah, today covering some of those verses. How Quran focused on that key piece why this idea of birr al-walidain, why is so elevated in Islam, to the point that Allah mentions with Tawheed, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَإِذَا أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So it's always associated with worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with Tawheed. Why? Quran will not mention something several times except there is a reason, and that does not put it. And in the verse in Surah Al-Isra, and in the verse in Surah Al-An'am, it came even before. Birr al-walidain comes even before أقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا وَإِذَا أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. That's Quran in a number of verses starts with the product first. That salah should produce this behavior, this character. Otherwise it is an obsolete salah. That salah and that iman should produce this character. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت الناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. That iman should produce this community. That iman, so the product is mentioned even before the process. So وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. This is part of more than a page, about a page and a half. I urge everyone to study and memorize it in Surah Al-Isra. Surah Al-Isra is Surah 17, and this starts from verse 23, goes all the way to verse 30. Full of commandments about akhlaq and the relationship, and it's in a very condensed and very concentrated passage. Your Lord has commanded that you should worship none but Him, and that you be kind to your parents. Together, worship none but Him and be kind to your parents. If either or both of them reach old age with you, say no word that shows impatience with them. Don't show any sign that you are frustrated or you are impatient with them. And do not be harsh with them, but speak to them respectfully. And lower your wing in humility. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. Towards them in kindness, and say, Lord, have mercy on them just as they cared for me when I was little. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِندَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ وَقُل رَّبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Why this is critical? One is because, as it is, there is a saying that says, مَنْ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ النَّاسَ لَمْ يَشْكُرِ اللَّهَ. Those who are not grateful to others will not be grateful to Allah. And I doubt it. I strongly doubt it that someone who is not grateful to their parents will be a good Muslim. I strongly doubt it. Because if you cannot appreciate what your parents have done to you, how are you going to appreciate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you? Very unlikely. Very unlikely to have someone who is good believer but ungrateful to their parents. Very unlikely. Why this is important again? One, because our religion is based on gratitude. Being grateful to Allah. Nothing comes after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before your parents, who brought you to this point. Because you came to this world helpless. You came to this world unable to do anything. Everything was taken care of. You've been taken care of for a couple of years, and then throughout the stages of life. And then somebody sponsored you in education, these parents and brought you to this point. If you're not going to appreciate that, then how are you going to be grateful? And this gratitude, this faithfulness, this wafa, is a critical aspect of our deen. And we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala essentially or primarily out of gratitude and thankfulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Second, we were talking about families being the solidarity among family. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after talking about parents, talks about your relatives. وآتي ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ولا تبذر تبذيرا. وآتي ذا القربى حقه. Give the relatives their due. And our deen puts rights of your relatives in your money. That's how much. وآتي ذا القربى حقه. And the verses go on to tell you that even if you cannot help, tell them, say good words for them. وإما تعرضن عنهم ابتغاء رحمة من ربك ترجوها فقل لهم قولا ميسورا. You don't have anything to give now, say inshallah, if this season goes well, this business season, or if things improve, inshallah you can count on me, I will help. So say a good word. Some people are stingy even with good words. Say a good word even when you cannot help. So birru al-walidayn. And then silat al-rahm. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated it to that point? Again, because if a person is not faithful to their parents, more than likely will not be faithful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was mentioned in several verses. We find it in Surah Al-Isra, just mentioned. We find it in Surah Al-Baqarah, as I just recited. We find it in Surah Al-Nisa, as I just mentioned. We find it in Luqman, Surah Luqman. We find it in Surah Al-Ankabut, Surah Al-An'am, several places. And all the time comes with وَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ, comes most of the time associated with worshipping none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then what is interesting is to eliminate any excuse for people not to be kind to their parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings an extreme case. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَى أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. In Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that even if they try hard to take you, to bring you back to kufr, disbelief from Islam, to take your religion away from you. That is, for a Muslim, there is nothing more precious than this. Don't obey them in this regard, but still you need to be kind to them. I don't know what other excuse a person can come up with after this. People are coming up with all kinds of excuses to justify that they are not kind to their parents. Quran tells you that even this is not an excuse. Even people fighting, parents fighting you over your religion, you cannot, don't obey them on this, but still that's not an excuse not to be kind to them. So forget about any other excuse, that's one. Second, what you're doing to your parents is not a favor. They're returning part of a debt that you have. So don't do it reluctantly, or do it with impatience. Do it happily. You are returning part of a debt, and there is nothing you can do to thank them enough. And what amazing me is sometimes those parents are not even in need for your financial help, and still some people are not kind to them, even if they don't need their help. So forget about standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thinking that you will have any valid excuse not to be kind to your parents. And then comes the verse in Surah An-Nisa talks about relatives and neighbors, all kinds of people around. This is the focus of our religion on the relationship. وَعَبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking, telling us to worship none but Him. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ مُخْتَالًا فَخُورًا. It is always mentioned in association with spending. وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقًّا. Kindness to parents and kindness to relatives. Most of the time in Quran it is mentioned in association with helping them financially, spending. So after talking about kindness to parents or to kinsmen, Quran will talk about spending. ولا تبذر تبذيرا وآت ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ولا تبذر تبذيرا إن الذين كانوا إخوان الشياطين. So as if Quran is telling us that's the proof or that's the evidence for kindness to parents and for your kids. Neighbors, same thing. Strong emphasis in Islam on being a good neighbor. People who are close to you, like colleagues working with you, their neighbors even in residence or neighbors at work. So all of these, there is a strong emphasis for that to work and cultivate and maintain good relationship. Why? Because Quran and Islam wants to build that very solid community and that very solid society. Something that is not shaky. High moral standards and character and strong relationship. And all of this is driven by what? All of this is driven by faith and driven by that commitment to that big job and big goals that we started with, is to make this world the best possible place, the best place possible, and to make sure that justice prevails. You can see how great our religion is, how effective its approach, and you can ask why we're not there. Why we are not there, it's something that we have to discuss. And I always call to confront the reality, and the reality is not good. But I have never said that there is no hope. It's never too late. This deen is there. This deen that created great success stories, produced great success stories in the early days, can do it any time. So yes, situation in most Muslim countries is bad and very bad and going from bad to worse. But it is never hopeless, because if you think about it, where Islam started, it started from much worse point and position and brought these people to much higher point. So it is doable, but it is not going to happen by itself. It's not going to happen by wishful thinking. It's not going to happen except through the dedication of people to do everything they can. And fi sabilillah, and then if they fall short, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest. وَأُخْرَى لَمْ تَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهَا قَدْ أَحَاطَ اللَّهُ بِهَا. But nothing before that. Nothing before you do your utmost, fi sabilillah, and then count on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of anything that is beyond your control and beyond your capacity. وَتُوبُوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. Dear respected brother and sister in Islam, the translation from the verse from Surah Al-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, worship Allah, join nothing with Him, be good to your parents, to relatives, to orphans, to the needy, to neighbors, near and far, to travelers in need, and to your slaves. Allah does not like arrogant, boastful people. It's amazing. Neighbors, far and near, and then parents, and then relatives, and then orphans, those who are close and those who are in need. Imagine each one is doing their best in this regard. How solid such a community will be and how solid such society will be. We will not even need any government programs because people will be, the solidarity among people will be more than enough. And we know that in the history of Islam, when people were paying their zakat, they reached a point where they did not find a way to spend it. Nobody is in need. At the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, they collect zakat money and there was nobody, they have collected much more than needed. And that's again, people are doing this voluntarily. There is no IRS behind them or nobody is policing them. People, they are dealing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they are doing their maximum. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا وتوفنا من مرض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك ومتعنا اللهم بالنظر لوجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربنا صغارا وارحم موتانا وجميع موتى المسلمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك